interim report released at the request of the British Foreign Secretary says Christian persecution in some parts of the world is, quote, close to meeting the international definition of genocide.
An unprecedented level of persecution against Christians has skyrocketed around the world.
1 in every 3 Christians in Asia are suffering from a high level of persecution.
We had a report revealing Christian persecution at an all-time high.
Christian persecution is growing around the world.
Throughout the world, no people of faith today face greater hostility or hatred than followers of Christ.
The World Summit in Defense of Persecuted Christians is an opportunity to be reminded people are losing their lives, people are in prison, people are tortured because of the name of the Lord Jesus Christ.
The Christian NGO Open Doors once again reports of increasing persecution of Christians worldwide.
And oftentimes, you're going to be criticized and going to be persecuted.
Today we're going to check in with Greg Musselman, who traveled to Mexico recently
this week on Christian World News, religious freedom
there.
is under assault around the world.
Now, some are warning that
and
it's
there's never been more persecution.
How to compel the unbeliever here. Today we're going to talk about why Christians are being persecuted. It just got real.
Oh, wow.
We've all heard all the stories from the very beginning of Christianity of Christians being persecuted for believing in Jesus. The earliest count we have of this is about 100 AD from Tacitus, the historian that was known among other historians as being the worst historian in history. He was not trusted by other historians because he flatly lied. There are early accounts also from people like Eusebius, but those are not first-hand accounts. They are accounts that I heard some guy say at some time that this happened somewhere. And we don't really have a true account of any of the persecution that the Christian mainstream people believe in. Frankly, was there persecution? Of course there was a little bit. There is for every religion. There is for everything. But it is in no way to the level that Christians claim today. Now, this is not me speaking as an atheist, but as a historian. And as a historian, it doesn't matter if they were persecuted in early Christian history or not. What's important is that we have the facts, if they were, that we know exactly what happened. In the book of Galatians, one of the 7 books of the 13 that are considered to be genuine writings of Paul, as opposed to the 6 that are forgeries, Paul tells us that he did persecute Christians, but he doesn't tell us how or why or what the extent of what it was about. So we just don't know. This is the only account that we have. So why did Paul feel that it was important to tell us that he had persecuted Christians? Well, I suspect there's 2 reasons. One, I think if he stated that he actually persecuted Christians and converted to Christianity, it gave him a great sense of authenticity to new believers and to his followers. Secondly, it also set the foundation for the spiritual cosmic battle between good and evil going on in the cosmos that was the basis of his ministry. Paul taught that Satan was given the earth and that he was in control of the earth and that God would eventually defeat him in a cosmic battle in the sky, and that in the meantime Christians would be persecuted, and it was a great thing to be persecuted for the sake of Jesus. Martyrdom became very popular, at least in the Christian lore. Persecution became an inherent part of the religion. Now, I'm not going to get into the absurdity of why people should have to suffer for a God, but let's take a look at some of the passages that tell us that we need to suffer for Christ. John 16:33, New King James Version. These things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. 1 Peter 4:13 NIV. But rejoice insomuch as you participate in the sufferings of Christ, so that you may be overjoyed when his glory is revealed. 1 Peter 4:14 NIV. If you are insulted because of the name of Christ, you are blessed, for the Spirit of glory of God rests on you. Acts 9:16 NASB. For I will show him how much he must suffer for my name's sake. Now there's something like 30 similar passages that hit on suffering for Christ in the New Testament, throughout the New Testament. Christians believe that when they suffer for Christ, they become better Christians. The example is often given that a father that loves their child will punish their child for their transgressions in order to teach them to make them better people. Christians believe that as the end times come, there will be more and more suffering, more and more persecution of Christians, and that is a sign that Jesus will come back, and that's when there will be the second coming. That is, Jesus will come back. So actually, all this persecution and suffering is actually very good. It's an indication that God is going to complete his prophecy of conquering Satan. Christianity is the #1 religion in the world. 2/3 of the nation are Christians. Is there any real persecution happening in the United States against Christians? No. Is there? If there is no persecution at all going on against Christians, being that Christians are human beings, they would look for or attribute any kind of persecution that they could find in order to reassure themselves that their God was coming back as Jesus Christ in his second coming, and that Jesus actually cared and was needed. Without persecution, without suffering, none of this would matter. To sum it up, the reason that Christians are being persecuted is because it's part of the religion, an extremely important part. Whether it is real or not real, it is something they have to believe. This is Compelled Unbeliever. I no longer believe there is a God.